Good afternoon, you guys. I wasn't sure if we were live there for a second. It's Tuesday. It is time for another episode of the Get to Know Her show. I am so excited that you're here. Thank you for taking time for your busy day to join us and dive into a great conversation today with the amazing Tahira Bharmal. She is going to be talking to us about all kinds of things. I'm going to introduce you to her in just a minute. But before we get started, check out my top, you guys, from our friend Brenda Bedome. This is a top that you need now. You know why? It's perfect for the holidays. It's satin and it feels so good. And you know what? Just because we're inside and maybe we're not seeing as many people this year for Christmas, maybe we're going to have family Christmas over Zoom, it doesn't mean you shouldn't get dressed up and feel good. And I love this satin top. I feel like a Charlie's Angel in this top. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's comfy. It's roomy. It, again, has that nice flare, so you don't have to worry about tummy stuff. And you need to treat yourself. Go to brendabedome.com and get yourself a nice little satin top for the holidays. She also has really nice long sleeve ones. So I will leave her information here on the comment section. And don't forget to use the coupon code Get to Know Her, and you'll get 13% off when you order from brendabedome.com. Now, before we get started, I want to introduce Tahira to you. She's amazing, and that's why I have my specs on, because I don't want to miss one thing. Tahira is a Canadian born in Kenya Look, I'm so excited. I'm fumbling over my words. Tahira is Canadian. She's born in Kenya with South Asian heritage. She is the co-founder and chief strategy officer with Mentors Consult, a training and development agency inspiring growth mindset in communities. She specifically works with leadership teams on diversity inclusion, leading with authenticity, overcoming personal limiting beliefs. We can all learn something from that, and fears, and to be stronger. She is awesome. I have talked to Tahira about my own challenges. I love her. She's amazing. And without further ado, let's get her on here and start talking. Did you hear me fumbling over my words? Because I was so excited. I'm vibing all this. Since I woke up this morning, I'm like, Tahira, Tahira, Tahira.
I am feeling it. I'm feeling it. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. This is great.
Thrilling. Yes.
It's so fun. I know, and I was lucky enough to have you as a guest speaker back in 2018 at my Dress for Success event. And oh my gosh, the audience of women walked away with so many useful tips and tricks about living their best life and just, living without fear and all of that stuff. And
thank you.
I want to say to you, from my heart to your heart, the best thing, people always say you can never lead by telling somebody what to do. You always need to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of the very first things that made an impression on me about you was that you were so generous with applauding me for my accomplishments. There was no feeling of jealousy. There was no feeling of competition. There was none of that. And then as I got to know you more and more, I realized that that is the way that you operate. You are so on board with celebrating women and getting them to show their strengths and really just taking what you have and running with it. Tahira, you have such a big heart. I don't think you have an ounce of competition, jealousy, anything in you. I think we all wish we could say that. And it can be a struggle, and I just love that part of you.
Thank you for saying that. I think it's I think part of it is growing up. It's sort of we're conditioned in some way or the other to be in competition, right? And I think it's only when I got older I realized that's really not necessarily true or even beneficial to anybody. And I think if I can celebrate your success and help you go forward. It's only beneficial to me in the sense is that I'm building a relationship with you that's based on honesty and trust and all those
Yeah.
good things that we do talk about. But I also do believe that it's a cycle, right? Like if you're ahead 1 minute, then, I mean, we've had this conversation when I did do that event for you, is that
Yeah.
through you, I've met incredible people. Through being on that platform of yours, I've met some really awesome human beings, women that came to that Dress for Success. And that was only because you had faith in me to put me up on that platform.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I think it's that idea that if we can constantly give each other, it's like a karma thing. It pays back. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Oh,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, and I think I've come to believe and truly try every day to live that I'm my only competition. I got to be better than what I was yesterday,
Yeah.
and compare myself to myself. Just so yeah. But thank you for those kind
Yeah.
words.
No, it's so true. And I think the other thing that's so wonderful about you being that way is that whenever you're around the company, whether it's me, another woman, once a person gets that sense that, hey, this person is going to support me, like I don't have to hold back, I don't have to play small. Like you and I sometimes will get into some pretty like rambunctious conversations where we're both like, I'm so awesome, but I think sometimes as women we don't want to do that. We don't want to make another person feel uncomfortable. We don't want to be in the spotlight. We do this playing small thing. And you're one of those people where I've never felt I had to play small around you. I could be gigantic and enormous. And so thank you for that.
Thank you for
And
saying that.
yeah, and I want the same from you, from any woman who's, I love it when you see that, just it's like a burst. It's like all of a sudden they feel safe and they're like, holy crap,
Yeah.
I am powerful, this is awesome. So okay, before we get into all that juicy stuff,
Okay.
you need to know the major question, and that is, what did little Tahira want to be when she grew up? And
Uh,
maybe we need to let people know that I did say that in the introduction, but I'm assuming little Tahira growing up was in Kenya, correct?
yes, little Tahira was born and raised in Kenya. I was there till I
Yes.
was 17 years old.
Okay.
Little Tahira. So I was thinking about this and I was going to give a really, not appropriate witty answer, but that wouldn't be true or authentic. I think little Tahira was, let's see, I do have memories remembering wanting to be an actress or a model.
Mm-hmm.
As that would sound, I had the flair for drama and I was really into Bollywood and all of those things. And then a part of me
I love
wanted
it.
to be a lawyer, but I didn't think I had. I soon realized I didn't have the filter or, the the need to be prim and proper all the time. So I
Right.
was like, okay, that's not happening. So I'm not going to do that. Um, but I'd say for a long time of my teenagers, I think it was around being a model or an actress.
Yep.
And then at some point, as I got closer to 18, 19, it was really strong to be a journalist. Like that was really something I really wanted to do, was be a journalist. And hence I pursued a mass communications degree. And then after that, I went on to, do an online course on journalism and news writing. But writing's been one of my sort of go-to mediums all the time as an expression and stuff. So I would say, yeah, something along the lines of a writer and a journalist. That would have, yeah, that's little Tahira, and still big
Wow.
Tahira's dream.
Do it.
I am going
Yeah.
to someday, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, all grown up Tahira sure is giving a lot these days. So,
I hope so.
so from there, from this dream, you went to work in the corporate world, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And how long were you doing that gig, and what were you doing there?
So I would say I was in the corporate world for about 10 years, give or take, a year here or there. And I did everything. So I started off in HR, but more on a communications role. And then I've been really lucky to have leaders that have really helped me shape who I am, and have been giving leaders in terms of leaders that really taught me something, um,
Yeah.
and really helped me along that journey of growth. And so, when I did get that job in HR, I was like, I'm have nothing to do with HR or anything, and I feel it's a full circle now. But that's maybe we'll get to that later. Um, and so I started there and did communications and established like a intra-communication systems for them. And then from there, I went into sort of helping a company set up their offices in the Middle East. And that was fun because I got a lot of business development and strategy exposure from that. And then I, in the same company, transitioned into marketing for the Middle East. And all these spaces exposed me to different cultures, different means, and sort of just understanding business a bit better.
Okay.
But it also, they allowed me space to put my talents to use. And like I said, I've been fortunate to have good leaders who've guided and seen what my capabilities were. And I was quite young when I started off, so I necessarily didn't see those, and they nurtured those and then made me recognize that these are talents and I could grow into them and, progress
Yeah.
with them. And
So
so I've been
Tahira,
fortunate with that. Yeah.
yeah, I want to ask you, like, having grown up, with mom and dad in Kenya, and you have a sister, right?
I have two siblings, yes.
Two siblings. Okay. And your siblings, like, not that I'm not assuming it was sheltered, but what sort of gave you that bravery to say, okay, I need to go to the Middle East. I want to do this. I want to take on this challenge. I'm not afraid to experience another culture. Were you raised with that? Did your parents expose you already to travel to other cultures where you felt that, yeah, this is something I can do? Or was it sort of like oh my God, how am I going to,
It's interesting. I just had a conversation with somebody this morning, and we had the exact same They asked me this similar question, but
Yeah.
yeah. And I want to say, the more I've grown older and I've had experience, I do realize that my parents did a really good job exposing us to things and allowing us to sort of not run wild in that sense, but run wild in our dreams and what we wanted to do. So growing up, I think Kenya is very multicultural to begin with.
Right.
And there's been a lot of, so where we were exposed to a lot of cultures there, but we did travel extensively as children. Every year my dad made it possible for us to go on holidays. And so we did travel a lot. My dad's family lived in Canada. So we did visit Canada every summer, I think, as a child.
Wow.
I was in Alberta to, spend time with grandma and my aunts and stuff. So we were exposed. We traveled quite extensively. Moving to the Middle East, so we'd been to the UAE on holiday as well, and we had family friends there. And when the time came for me to make the choice of living there, it actually happened quite, I don't know what the word is, but I was actually on my way back from South Africa to Canada. And I thought, I just finished university. I'd spent some time in South Africa, and I was like, okay, I'm coming back to Calgary to get a job and, figure life out. And I'd stopped in the UAE for a 3-week holiday, and I said, I'm going to spend time with our friends there. And while I was there, they were like, oh, why don't you look for a job? And I thought, okay, seems interesting. And at that time, my now husband, then boyfriend, had just gotten a job in a part of the UAE, which is Abu Dhabi. And I thought, okay, yeah, it would be cool if we got a job and we were living in the same, country, if maybe not the same city. And so I started to job hunt. And I found a job, and I liked the job, and it seemed challenging. And I said, okay, I'm going to stay. And my dad was in, I think, South Africa. And I said, oh, I'm deciding to stay here. And the next thing I knew, he had flown into Dubai to convince me not to live there. And he said, it's a great holiday spot, but you're going to be challenged. It's not, and it's changed, of course, over the years, right? But I'm talking, this is early 2000s. So he's like, you're going to have a struggle there. You're a woman, and you're a woman of color here that's, South Asian. And he tried everything. Like, he stayed with me for a week to convince me not to live there. And then he said, it's going to be hard. You're not going to like it. You're going to be like back home in a week's time. And I said no. And I sort of, him being so like, I don't want to say forceful, but so present there to convince me not to. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to show you that I can do this.
Wow.
And I ended up living there for 8.5 years.
Wow.
And I traveled.
You really showed.
Yeah, and I lived in all parts of, like most parts of the UAE, the major cities and stuff.
Wow.
And so that's how that happened. But
Amazing.
I think I'm nomadic by nature, and I think I get that from my dad. Is he's traveled extensively, and I just find I like to travel, and not just on a holiday. I find if you're living in a place, you get to learn the culture and the people a little bit more, and it's adventurous. Like there's so much to see out there and so much to learn from. So I'm nomadic in that sense. So when it comes to travel, I think I'm unstable in that sense. Like I get bored after living in a place for too long of a time. I'm like, okay, let's move, let's change it up, you know?
Yeah.
In fact, pre-COVID, I was on my husband's case. I'm like, we've been here 9 years now. Where's the next place? Like, where are we? Can we think about moving or, doing something? And then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, no, maybe we're just staying here for a little bit longer.
Yeah. But I love that conversation. I mean, before we went live here, we were having a little discussion backstage, and and I was saying to you, I love, in the summer, you said, "Oh, we haven't really been in touch," and I said, "Yeah, but I know you. You were camping. You were like having adventures in your area," and I think that's so great about you, that you guys you just pack up, you go camping, you do your own adventures with what you have.
I've learned to be a camper. That is, I have to say, I'm more of a glamper, and I've learned to become a camper over the last, I think since my daughter Zuri's been born. I'd say maybe after she turned a year and a bit, we took her camping because my husband's a huge camper. He's loved camping all his life, and I've hated it. Like I'm a glamper, a straight out glamper. And we took her camping, but that's because we decided we weren't going to influence her likes or dislikes. And we let her decide what she liked, because we were both got such different likes and dislikes in stuff that we do. And so we took her camping, and the entire trip, I'm not lying to you, I was praying that she would have a horrible time. I know, terrible mother. I was having a miserable time. And we get in the car on the drive back, and this is when she was about 1.5 years. So then maybe about 7 years ago. And she's, I love camping. And I was like, no. And because of that, I said, okay, because I'd made that choice that if she's going to enjoy it, we're going to nurture it, right?
Yeah.
And so I started to learn to like camping. I'm getting there. And, bless my husband's soul, he's really done a good job to make it as comfortable as it can be for me. So now we're at that stage where I do feel we're glamping. But I've also learned over the years to honestly just embrace it. And it's become a space where it allows me to be in nature. And I've come to learn to appreciate that more and just be still. And part of it too is I didn't realize how much I miss the nature that was part of us in Kenya. I took it for granted. And so now I've realized that's something that's important to me. So I do take that time, I'll take when we go camping, it's brilliant. They'll do what everybody gets space to do what they want to do. And for me, it becomes a space to just be creative. I'll take my journal with me. I'll take a book. So it's become fun now. Like I'm finding the fun in it now.
That's great.
But everybody that knows or is watching this and probably knew me before would be like, yeah, she's on a camper. And I have strict rules of what I will and will not do while we're camping. So
that's great.
While I do seem adventurous on the pictures, it comes with a whole lot of lists of this is acceptable, this is not acceptable.
You have like one of those lists like rock stars have that. What do they call that? Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Know, but
like I will only eat green M&Ms. and stuff like that. Yeah.
And in all fairness, when we go do camping with our friends, I am the diva of the camping group. Like everybody knows, they're oh, is Tahira comfortable? And I'll be like, I'm not doing that. Like that is not me. I'm not doing that. I'm not, So
I love it.
I have wonderful friends and family that do accommodate my little diva-ness.
Oh,
when we're camping.
When you're camping, that's it.
That's it. After that, it's a hard stop. Yeah.
So take us back to Dubai then. So you were there for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then where did you go from there after the 8 years of
we moved
working?
Here.
You moved to Canada. Okay.
We moved back to Canada and to Burlington. So when I done university in Ottawa, I lived in Calgary, done university in Ottawa. And so when the decision we made to move back, and it was on a career move for my husband, and as nomadic, it's like, okay, sure, we'll go for a few years and then we'll move back somewhere else. I hadn't heard of Burlington, and it's funny because I had friends from Montreal all the way to Waterloo, and we drive through Burlington, but it never stuck. And so we come down and we stayed a night in Burlington before we made the decision to stay here. And I thought, oh my God, where have we come? But also there was such a difference of like Dubai is really the city that never sleeps. Everything's up and your restaurants are up. And so till 3 a.m, and we got here. It was October when we did that. And I was like, oh my God, it's dead. And then we moved in March. So we came in October, had a look, and then we moved here eventually in March. And I remember the first night we got here, it was like 9 p.m. and the only place that was open was the East Side Mario's in Mapleview Mall, which they don't even have it anymore. And I remember we had dinner in silence because I think we were both thinking, oh my God, what have we done? And then literally that same week, Ali flew off to Germany for work, and I was here, and there was a snowstorm, and we were in an apartment building in downtown Burlington, and I looked out, and I called him, and I'm like, I'm packing my bags and moving back. You do as you want. I can't do this. There's too much snow. And then, mind you, I've lived in Calgary and Ottawa, both very cold places, both snow heavy, and I was like, no, I'm not prepared for this. And he was like, you can't be serious. I'm in Germany. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then, of course, I was just having a tantrum. And then we stayed, and it's become home now. We had our daughter here, and I've come to love it a lot. And part of the reason we moved was because we were ready to sort of get away from the city space to come down to something. And so it's been an interesting journey. And it's also been the space where I've become an entrepreneur and, all these things. It's great memories. I still am not a fan of the winter. I still complain every time winter comes. I'm sure you know that.
Okay, although I will say, remember you and I last winter meeting at Beer Town in a snowstorm?
Yes.
You said, I'll come meet you. And you were out there with I think you brushed off my car, your car, the next guy's car. You were all good.
Every year I promise myself I'm going to get better and I'm going to embrace it. And I think I'm getting better at it. But every time it's like now, when it starts to get that little cold, I'll have that, oh no, not again, hibernation begins or all of that. But every year I'm trying really hard. It's 9 years and I'm still, so you can imagine how little those steps are for me embracing winter completely.
I love it.
It's taking me a while, but I will get there at some point. I'm still not going to do the skiing, and I've had friends that tell me, "Oh, take up a winter sport and you'll love it." I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's torture." I'm happy to sit in a cabin and drink hot chocolate or coffee or whatever it is, or maybe even a stronger drink, and not be out there. So that's where I'm at, but I'll get there at some point, maybe.
You will get there. Oh God! So it sounds like Burlington was your biggest culture shock of all the places you've lived.
I don't know if I would say culture shock, but I think it was coming. I think the shock piece was coming back to, and I don't want to say this. It's not in a negative way, but a slower pace of life in that sense, right? Like, we were so used to being in a city that never sleeps and literally out and partying every weekend. This was, I was in my
Yeah.
20s. But and then sort of, I'd forgotten that, malls shut down at 6 o'clock on the weekend here. Whereas when there's, festivals and shopping festivals, you can shop at 2 in the morning, and I've
Yeah.
done that. Like, I've gotten up at 1 in the morning and been like, okay, I'm bored, let's go to the mall. And that was just the life we'd lived. And so coming here, and then you're at, like, 10 o'clock's last call, and you're like, no, don't I have to about 11? So it was a change in that sense. Like, we had to
Mm-hmm.
to start eating dinner earlier. Do you know what I mean? To say things
Yeah.
like those were the and it wasn't that we didn't know this, we'd just forgotten, right?
Yeah. You
And,
forgot.
and then just figuring out where to shop again, and where do you buy these things, and
Yeah.
all of these
I
little things.
love this. You know what, Tahira, this reminds me, I remember my dad telling me stories about coming from Germany to Toronto and what a dead city Toronto was. And the same, like, what the hell? Like, there's nothing happening. Whereas in Cologne, it was like, lit up. They had their festivals and all kinds of stuff, right? Like constant action. And then he
Yeah,
came to Canada and it's like snowstorms and yeah, it's
yeah, and
crazy.
I think that's the other piece too, right? I mean, Eastern cultures and European cultures too, they're more
Yeah.
communal, so to speak. Not to say that community is not high here, but North
Yeah.
American culture is more individualistic, and it's one of the adjustments for us was, everything's planned. You've got to, so if you want to have friends over for dinner, you've got to
Mm-hmm.
sort of say, okay, next or 2 weeks out, we're going to have dinner
Right.
together, and it's planned. And the Kenyan in us is so spontaneous that it's, oh, at 6 o'clock, what are you guys doing? Let's have dinner tonight. And it would be like, no, we've got, and so those were the sort of little adjustments that we
Wow.
had to um, figure out or work around, and sort of
Yeah.
decide how much of it we want to give up and assume the culture here, and how much of it do we want to keep. And we've been fortunate enough that we've been able to be flexible with both sets. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But those are the spaces, I think, and so I relate. Like, I can relate to
Yeah.
the story
And
you just mentioned.
yeah, that's so interesting too, because even when you think about, I've been to Morocco, but I haven't been to any other parts of Africa to really know the culture. But, in Europe, for instance, like in Germany, you go to a restaurant and if there isn't enough room, they squeeze you in, you're sitting with another couple. Like it's not even weird. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
it's not a
here,
big
there's some
deal.
space. And I've been thinking about that with COVID, like in these countries where people are more like there's higher volume of people, so they're closer physically anyway, but then they also have this part of their culture that I think is so lovely where everybody hangs out together and you get to meet people and you go out because you want to be social, not because you want to sit in a dark corner with your husband. You know what I mean? Like you can do that at home.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the COVID thing, I mean, we're kind of used to isolating
yeah,
ourselves, social,
and we're
even when
used
we're
to the
out in
spatial
public.
thing too, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and I think this is personality. There's cultural influence too, but it's also personality based. I'm a spatial person in general. Like, I like to be with people, but then I like that physical space that's safe.
Yeah.
But um, in Europe and in Africa, they don't understand those concepts. Like, you'll be in a
No.
line and somebody's standing right here, even though there's so much space, they're still like right
Yeah.
here. And Middle Eastern culture is the same. Like, there'll be an empty room and they'll come and stand right next to you, and you're like,
Yeah.
there is so much space. And yes, you're right. With COVID, I think it is harder for these kinds of cultures or people that
Mm-hmm.
are used to that kind of thing and are used to going out to be with people socially and not to
Yeah.
be, on a isolated date or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think, and then part of it is too, like, I have friends that live out in Europe and stuff. And so when their lockdowns are uplifted or whatever, they're sort of trying to go back to something like that because that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
craving the most, right?
Right. For
But it's
sure.
new, uncharted territory for everybody, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now back to you.
Okay.
Because I love talking to you about anything, but back to you. Okay. so now we're in Burlington. How, tell us about your business, why you decided to break away from working for someone else, and to work independently, and why you have this big fire in your belly to empower people and get them on track.
That's
You
so
know?
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to let my secrets out, but here we
What's
go.
happening? Please. This is a
I
show
will.
where all secrets can come out. Let's do a
No,
vote.
that's fine.
Who wants?
So it goes back a little bit. When a year before we decided to move back to Canada, I'd sort of taken a year off from work. So I quit my corporate job, and I had said to my family that I was taking a year out to explore things. I wanted to learn pottery. I wanted to learn yoga. Did not do any of those, but it ended up being a year I was traveling a lot. I went to India with my friend. I went to Thailand to see my dad, where he was working at the time. And so I ended up traveling. I was in Tanzania and Kenya. And so my year that was supposed to be for me to discover ended up being a travel year. And during the course of that year, I sort of just came back home. And every time I'd go on a trip and come back, and I'd have these conversations with Elif or, with my sisters. And I was like, I do know one thing. I don't want to go back to working for somebody. I want to be my own boss. So I knew that quite early after leaving my corporate job. And I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know what kind of a business it would be. I didn't know any of that, but I did know I didn't want to work for somebody. I was enjoying my freedom and my flexibility and having ownership of my time a lot, just traveling.
Yeah.
And maybe it was idealistic and romanticized because I had that year to travel and the means to do it and all of that. But I wanted more of that. I wanted more control on my time. I wanted to be able to be free, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then we moved here. And so when we moved here, the plan was that I would get us settled in terms of, like, Elif had come and he jumped straight into work. And so I said, okay, I'll find the house. I'll find where we're living. I'll figure all those details out, because we had options to live in Oakville, Moulton. And, there was all of that logistic part of it. And so I said, okay, I'll figure that out. You figure work out. And then after we've done that, I'll start looking for a job, because now we were in a new space, new place. And the logical step was you can't just jump into a business when you don't know your market, you don't know what you're doing. So it was like, okay, I'll work for a few years, and then we'll figure out what we're doing. And so in the time that we were settling in and everything, I found out I was expecting. And so I was like, oh. I was literally like, oh. And it was in that point, I didn't think it was fair to take on a job only to then 6 months or 8 months later go on mat leave. And it's just who I am as a person. I just didn't think it was ethical. I don't know if that's the right word, but for me, it was really ethical. It's just not who I am, is to say, oh, give me a job, and then in 6 months, I'm going to sort of leave you high and dry for the next 18 months. And so I said, okay, I'm going to stay at home. And I said, I'll give 2 years of my life to raising my baby, and then we'll figure it out. Everybody that sort of sees me sort of thinks that I am nurturing, but they automatically assume that me being the stay-at-home parent is just came naturally, but it didn't. It had a lot of angst in me. Like, it was really a tough choice. Like, I made it, and nobody put a gun to my head. I made that choice, but there was a lot of inner, like, I don't want to give up my independence and my freedom and all of those things. So it didn't quite come as naturally as most people tend to think it did. There was a lot of back and forth in my mind about it. And I made that choice willingly. And I'm very happy I did make that choice. And I'm blessed with a really nice old soul as a child. You've met her. But and so 2 years became 4 years as time went. And I think part of it was I got comfortable in that role, and I sort of lost myself, because I'd taken on this role, and we didn't, like, I think I lost who I was in those years, and I just got too comfortable. And then, you hear it often enough with moms that are new moms, you lose yourself, you lose your self-confidence, you don't know where you're going back to, and all those sort of fun things happened. But I kept myself busy, and I was doing stuff. I'd started an online magazine, like Chick Magazine, to share stories with women. And so I was still pursuing things here and there that were of interest to me and passionate to me. But on the most part, I did not realize how much I'd lost myself and how much it was affecting my mental health until I think when Zuri turned 4. She's a January baby, and I remember I had a breakdown, like in that just a week before her birthday, where it hit me that, oh my God, it's been 4 years, and I was sort of looking in the mirror, and I didn't, like, it's almost like you could say like a movie, but that's really what happened. I didn't know who I was. I couldn't answer the one question, what do you enjoy doing? Right? Like something as simple as that. Like I'd lost that. And I had that breakdown, and it was then I realized that my mental health was, I needed to fix that, or not fix it, but I needed to address it, and I needed to get healthy. And I needed to now recognize I need a balance. It can't just all be, because that wasn't true or authentic to me. It wasn't who I was at my core. And it's not to speak or compare. And I think that's part of why I really have this, it is who I am, is be who you want to be, let other people be who what it is. Because what's right for me may not be for somebody else. And there was so much pressure too, and noise, like, oh, if you're going to be a stay-at-home mother, do this. It's that same conversation. If you stay at home, then, oh my God, you're a stay-at-home mom. What do you do with yourself? And then if you go to work, oh my God, you left your child and went to work. All this kind of crap feeds you. But for me, it was just that realization. I needed to find that balance, and I needed to find who I was again, and what made me excited and what made me passionate. And of course it had changed, and I had grown, and I had changed as a human being. It couldn't be what it was for years. I had a different life now. And so I took time. I decided to explore that, and I decided to, I think, travel. I went to Los Angeles for a conference. It's called the Blog Her Conference, and it was for women content writers, online content creators. And through a blog that I was a part of, they had told me about it. And I remember after the breakdown, like it was 4 hours of nonstop crying and, like freaking out of like, I don't know who the hell I am. I went into the shower, I got down, and I remember clearly, I picked up my laptop, I opened it up, I bought the tickets to the conference in LA, and this was January, and this was happening in August. And mind you, I'm not a pre-planned person by any means. And I bought the tickets, and I looked up at, my sister was there. She was visiting from Ottawa at the time, and my husband and I said, I'm going to Los Angeles in August, and I'm going to go on my own. And this is a trip for myself. And and I said to him, here are the dates. Make sure you block your time off work, because you're going to watch Zuri. And my sister were like, oh, we'll come too. And, you can go to your conference, and we'll go on and sightsee and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm going alone. Nobody's coming with me. I'm doing this. And they were like, okay, and that's how it started.
Wow. And I remember that. I remember when you went.
And that's around the time. I think
that's around the time we met. I think when you came back.
When I came back, yes.
Yeah.
And so then that started off me taking control of myself and my mental health, and recognizing and exploring. And so then I started to look at coaching and what that was, because culturally too, there's a stigma that's attached to mental health. And so initially I was like, I don't need a counselor, I don't need the therapist, and all of those kinds of things.
Right.
And so I was looking at alternative avenues, but it just to educate myself and to learn what was available for me to get the help I needed to get. And so I started looking into coaching. I started exploring what that looked like. And then I got certified as a coach, because I started working with a coach, and that really excited me. And I seemed to be naturally gravitating towards that. And so then I got that started, and then I went on this conference, and I came back, and I had sort of like this, it was one thing leading to the other. And then just this clarity came that I think part of my purpose is to be that person that empowers, because I've been really lucky and fortunate to have people that have created space for me to be empowered and to live the life I want to live. and I want to be that for somebody else, because I know, like, it's just, I know where I was and what I needed. And I was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough and lucky enough to have friends and people that love me enough to have that for me. Do you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I do feel, yes, part of my purpose and my passion is to empower people, because I do believe that experience taught me that it's what the stories we tell ourselves, we start to believe
Yeah.
those. So I'd been telling myself a story that this was what I was meant to be as a stay-at-home mom, and culturally been taught this, give up everything and all of those little things.
Yeah.
That's not true. I can be a whole bunch of things and be great at all of them. You
Yes.
know, it's dependent on me and what I want to put in, and that's what I'm going to get out of it. So there was a lot of self discovery, if you like, on that, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of me owning my stuff too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
owning and recognizing, when I had the breakdown, I was really mad at my sisters and my husband that they didn't tell me I was making my child my life. So I was blaming them
Oh.
for not, like, because before, while I was pregnant, I'd said, make sure I don't become one of those moms, and make sure, and then I was, for a split
Wow.
second, mad at them and blaming
Mhm.
them, only to realize it's not their fault, right?
Isn't that
It's,
amazing? I have
it's my
goosebumps. Yeah.
responsibility, and it's my life, and it's my path and my journey.
Mm.
I can't start to blame people outside of me for choices
Mm.
I'm making, because nobody put a gun on my head. Nobody told me to do this. I made those choices, and I have
Mm-hmm.
to take responsibility for them. And that really unlocked something for me in my mind in terms of a mindset shift, is to get really conscious and recognize that I have made the choices, even for things
Mm-hmm.
that I may regret or
Yeah.
whatever. I made those choices. And now that I've made those choices, what do I want to do with them? I can't go back in time and change them. But
Yeah.
what do I want to learn from them? There's two ways. I either stay and continue making the same choices, or I change them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, mm, for me, I don't know if it's a personality thing, or for me, it's just I will change them. If I'm not happy about them,
Yeah.
I have to take ownership on them, and I can't start relying on other people
Yeah.
to change it for me.
For sure. And I love this realization and how it came about because it's so interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. So, even what you were saying earlier about your dad, he came all the way to Dubai to sit down with you face to face and tell you not to stay there, to go. You're not going to, and you said, oh, yeah, watch me. And 8 years later, you're still there, right?
Right.
So, you have that. But then it's like there's something in us innately where you actually crave that. You want your husband and your sister now, fast forward to you being a mother, to tell you, to kind of tell you how to be
To
a
validate
mother,
you.
how to
To
this, how to
validate
that.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're afraid of being the opposite of what you actually want to be. And that breakdown, I mean, I can imagine that was a very dark and scary time in your life. Also, a gift and a big transition to take you
Yeah.
from here's Tahira still valuing what other people say and kind of wanting it because it's going to help me. I mean, I have that too. And then you make this transition to wait a second, I actually know what I want. I can trust myself, and now I'm actually best friends with myself, and I can trust me, and nobody can threaten that or threaten me, or it's such a beautiful unraveling.
Yeah. I think, a
It,
part of it is, I have to say, and I'd like to say this because I hope people that are watching, there are probably similar stories or situations.
yeah.
Um, there are people with, it was a dark moment for me for sure. And I think, um, a big part is I'm fortunate to have parents that have never imposed on me to worry what people think and to follow my dreams. What I
Mm-hmm.
like to call what happened to me in those 4 years, which were very beautiful. I do have I got to know my daughter really well, and I am
Mm-hmm.
forever grateful for that. But I think what happened in that moment is I fell asleep at the wheel. So I was just going with emotions, and there's different reasons why that could have happened. It could have been because I was tired from being a new mother and all of these things. There's different reasons that could have happened. I don't think it was so much so about worrying what people thought about me. I think I just literally fell asleep at the wheel. Like I was just going with, with it. With respect to me wanting my husband or my sisters to point out that I'd fallen asleep at the wheel was a way of me not taking accountability and responsibility of myself. It was more, I wanted them to, like, I still wanted to be asleep and you take responsibility. Do you know what I mean?
You wanted them to be the boss of you.
Yes. But I also wanted, it was me deflecting that responsibility and accountability out of myself. And I think a part of that stemmed from the fact that I had lost that self-confidence at some level.
Right? And Tahira, did you kind of look at it as like, you guys aren't taking care of me, you're not looking out for me, you're selfish, you're only thinking of yourselves, here I am, or how did you feel towards your brother, your husband and your sister?
No, actually, no. So I have to say, no, that blame lasted very little. Like it was almost like a minute or 2 minutes of blaming them, and then me really like getting slapped in the face, like, what are you doing? Why are you blaming them? And no resentment towards them, and no ill or bitter feelings towards them, so to speak. I was really mad at myself. I was really mad at myself that I had fallen asleep, and then I was mad for thinking it was their responsibility. Like I somehow in me was like, you know better. It's not anybody's responsibility but yours to take control of your life and the change you want to see. So I think I was more annoyed at myself, and I think that was hard for them to see. Because I am also the baby of the family, so everybody's very protective of me. So I don't think I was never bitter or mad at them for that. I was very mad at myself.
And was it quite a process to accept yourself after that? Did you have to forgive yourself? Where did you go from there?
Forgiveness of yourself. I think I'm learning it's a continuous process. Like you're always learning and growing, and I think that's a cycle. No, I think I'm fortunately blessed with an innate personality thing that sometimes pisses people off around me a lot is I'm a solution-oriented human being. I don't like to stay in the problem for long. So once I've recognized the problem, and that's really why I'm passionate about what I do is once I recognize the problem, then I don't want to focus on what the problem is or even why it was created. It's irrelevant to me. I mean, that's how I look at it. It's irrelevant to me to go into it and break it down and analyze where the problem started.
Right.
I'm in solution mode, and I want to get a solution, and it has to be a solution that's amicable, likable, and doable, and all those check boxes that need to be checked off for solution. So I'm innately in that mode. I'm a solution person rather than a problem person. So once I recognize that there's a problem, I really didn't even go further to explore. It's when I'm talking and I'm asked about it, I think I reflect on it. But I didn't really go into where did it come from and who, I said, a second of the blame, and then I was like, move on. But I really went into solution mode, and I quickly recognized I needed to be kinder to myself. If I was going to implement the solutions I wanted, I needed to be kinder to myself. And with kindness comes the forgiveness. So I had to forgive myself for a lot of things. And let go of a lot of things and be like, I can't do anything about that. Let it go. You know?
Yeah. So Tahira, this makes me so sad. We have like 5 minutes left. I hate that. But what I do want to do is give you an opportunity to let people know, like, if they want to work with you, to what capacity, like if you want to share with the audience here, because we got a lot of very nice people making beautiful comments.
Awesome.
Thank you guys. And by the way, audience, these comments are so wonderful, and it's nice to read them, and it's nice to see them off to the side here, because it's important. The feedback is really important. We love it.
Awesome.
So if somebody wanted to call Tahira tomorrow, what would...
So Let's see. So I do. I'm trying to sort of think how that is. I like to meet people. I like to connect with people. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the capacity of working with me in whatever space it is. But I am currently going to be introducing a really exciting project and special project that's going to be about really mentoring and empowering women entrepreneurs and young professional women. I think over the years, with what I've done with my business, with the coaching, and then transitioning now into Mentors Consult, which is a training and development agency where we do the soft skills training for leadership, communication, diversity, and team building, and all those fun things. I think one of my biggest takeaways and learnings is that we tend to think of training as necessary when we get to a certain point in our careers as business people or as even in corporate careers. But I'm recognizing and realizing that we need to start instilling these skills in ourselves as soon as we're ready, right? So it doesn't matter what stage of your career you are in. Once you're ready to sort of just empower yourself with the skills of what does proper effective communication look like, for whatever space you're in, take that skills training. Do you know what I mean? And I find the more people I'm talking to, and we're ready for it now, especially with everything we've learned in this year, we're ready for it. So, I would invite everybody to really first connect with me, get in touch with me through the social media platforms, or if you go on the site, you can get our email address, which is mentorsconsult.com, and get in touch with me. I'd love to connect with you. And then we can sort of really explore what it is you're looking to do in terms of empowering yourself or your team or whatever it is, wherever you are in your life. I'm happy to first chat with you before we decide a plan, because it's so individualistic and it's so different for everybody based on where they're in their lives. And so I always say, connect with me first, let's talk. And I also like to believe that if I'm in a position and a space that I'm able to help you, I'm really happy to be able to do that. But there's things that even I don't do. So then I'm happy to refer you to a great network of people that I work with and collaborate with who would probably be better suited. So I'd say first connect with me, talk to me. Let's explore what it is we're looking at and then take it from there.
Tahira, you're awesome.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this.
Oh,
I don't talk about myself so much in a long
but
time.
It's great. I mean, and I love how you described it. I could visualize you, like in your 20s taking over the world, and then my God.
I don't know. I was quite the party person. Well, when I tell my daughter that I would go clubbing, and she says to me, "What, you clubbed?" I was like, okay, that's not good. What do you think I am? But yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, you got it all, girl.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy. Well, let's go clubbing once we're back to normal. You and me.
Yes, please. Let's go dancing. We've been waiting to do that for a while, though, right?
I know. We have.
Whatever the new dancing routine looks like, right?
Yeah, we'll do ours. We'll teach them.
Absolutely.
All right, my darling. So I'd love to invite you to a little Instagram after party in about 5 minutes. I'm going to say goodbye to you here for now. Thank you for everything, for your time.
Thank you so much for
your
entire experience. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. And you can actually sit backstage while I say goodbye to the peeps, and then I'll...
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks, Tahira. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Tahira is a big giant ray of sunshine. I just love her. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all your comments, you guys. The comments mean so much when I'm interviewing the guests and they can see them coming in. It's just really great. It just brings a whole other vibe to the conversation. And, everybody loves to hear when they're on track and they're inspiring. So thank you for your comments. They mean a lot. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. And please do not forget to go to brendabadome.com. She is our sponsor for the Get to Know Her show. And she made this beautiful silk top I'm wearing. She's got a whole line of gorgeous clothes. You're definitely going to want to check them out, and they're comfy and Zoom friendly, and we still need to look good even if we're at home and we've got pajama bottoms on the bottom. let's show the world what we got, and always feel and look great. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Love you all for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday with another wonderful, inspiring guest for the Get to Know Her show. Bye for now.